happens. If you have not followed his Triple H horse racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.
Good evening and welcome to episode 12 of Great Race Plays, right here on the HHH Racing Podcast, an exclusive look at the late pick 4 on Sundays at Santa Anita. I'm your proud host, Howard Kravitz. Thank you very much for joining me tonight, as I will be joined very soon also by my wonderful co-host, Paul Halloran, as we're going to be discussing, like I said, the late pick 4 at Santa Anita. Before we do that, please make sure you hit that subscribe button on the bottom right-hand side of the screen, the notification bell on the top right, and smash that like button below the video player. You can listen to this show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. We have a fantastic tip sheet that has been on an absolute roll. We had 3 winners last week, 2 of them at Gulfstream, and we had 1 at Santa Anita. Not only do we have that, we had another great score that I want to talk about after I bring in my co-host Paul Halloran here in just a second. Look below the video player for information about our Power Picks tip sheet. It's very inexpensive and profitable, and you can check out also information about our tip sheet and much, much more on our great website, hhhracingpodcast.com. All right, let me bring on my wonderful co-host from the Saratoga Special and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Mr. Paul Halloran. Paul, how are you doing this evening? We got a lot to talk about. Let's just jump in right away. First of all, we mentioned this on our Picks and Ponies show that we just filmed here, as we're live Thursday night at 9 o'clock Eastern. The showdown was not between 2 Bafferts. Mr. Michael McCarthy upset the apple cart last weekend in the San Felipe, running a monster hole in the wind. Frankly, not just beating Barnes, but going by him relatively easily in a thrilling rendition of the San Felipe. Journalism, to me, Paul, the clear Derby favorite as we speak.
Yeah, I love seeing him winning those Bob LaPenta silks, of course, made famous by my friend Catholic Boy. Bob is a part owner of journalism, and things go well, Howard. Who knows? Maybe we will try to get Mr. LaPenta on the show before the Derby.
Oh, that would be
I
very,
might be
very
able to
cool.
make that happen.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, Howard, he ran great. And we didn't really talk much on our other show. But, Sovereignty off the layoff ran pretty damn good at Gulfstream as well.
Absolutely.
So I am I'm trying to temper my excitement, but I would love to see my Team Blue represented at Churchill on the first Saturday in May.
We are fully immersed into the Kentucky Derby prep season. That is for damn sure. And Rodriguez is also talented, but maybe doesn't want the distance. I said on the show, I said on Picks and Ponies, I said on Axe, I went on a limb, Paul. Look, I'm wrong all the time, just like everyone else, but you got to take stands in this game. I try to be right more than I'm wrong. I do not think Barnes is a Kentucky Derby horse. He's extremely talented. He's very fast. If he stays healthy, he's going to win a lot of money. I hope he gets in the Derby, because unless he shows me that he can get more distance or at least a rate and finish, I will be against him on the first Saturday in May, Paul.
Yeah, we talked on our other show about it. It still could go either way. We'll see. I don't think, my guess would be Bob's not ready to give up the ship yet. I pointed out on our previous show that he may wait and see how his other horses develop. But, will I be shocked if this horse enters the gate in the Jerkins at Saratoga on Travers Day? No, I won't.
No. It'll be very interesting to see what happens. There was also a big announcement today that affects West Coast racing, but I'm going to actually hold off on that until we're halfway through the card. We'll have a few more people joining us, and we can discuss that big news. I'm sure you are aware of what I am talking about. Let's get into late pick 4. Now, first of all, Paul, our good friend Pete Visco is a little bit under the weather tonight. Hope he feels better. But shout out to Pete, who gave out a tremendous 3-hour late pick 3 and $5 double on this show, which included, I believe, a 14-1 shot in a wide open finale last Sunday. If you watched our show and you agreed with Pete's picks, Paul, wow, you cashed big time last weekend.
Yes, Pete might not be sick. He might be out. He might still be hungover from spending the money.
Wow. Celebrating, huh? Well, look, he's not the only one that gives out good scores. Paul and myself had our share of scores as well, but that one definitely stood out. Congratulations to our co-host Pete Visco for that. All right, let's get to late pick four on Sunday. And there's a stake race, Paul. It's the Pasadena. I don't know what the plans are for Sandy. I think it would be sort of cool. I don't have to tell them how to run their track, but I do think it would be nice if they maybe bring in some first responders or did something, because the city of Pasadena, unfortunately, Paul, along with Malibu and some other locales, really took it hard, unfortunately, with the horrible fires they had there. So I'm sure they will celebrate the city of Pasadena very accordingly with the Pasadena Stakes, which we're going to get to in just a minute. Let's go ahead and start with the late pick four on Sunday at the Great Race Place, and it starts in race 8, Paul. And by the way, don't forget to turn your clocks back or forward, actually, push them forward for daylight savings time, which is this Sunday, I believe. I'm pretty sure it is. So
Well,
make sure you do that, because you don't want to miss Santa Anita. But of course, it's later in the day. That should not be a problem. 4 o'clock local. It's going to be 7 o'clock Eastern. It is race 8, and it starts. Let me go and take this banner off the screen here, and let me bring up our picks right now. There we go. I'm going to go 726, and Paul's going to go 793. This is starter optional claiming 6,250 down to 5,000, restricted for the Northern California horses. And Paul, we've talked about this ad nauseum. I think you and I are getting a real good sense as to the talent of some of these horses. And just like any other place, if you watch these horses and watch replays, you should have an idea of what will happen. Of course, it's horse racing. Anything that can happen will happen. But I believe, Paul, just to toot our own horns, we've done pretty darn well in these races
yeah,
because they can be formful, and there are some angles that you definitely want to play against. I thought this was one of the tougher races that we've seen of this class level. It's a big field. It is a field of 9. Of course, we don't have morning lines. My guess is the morning line favorite will be between the number 6 Run in Ute for Veracio and Castellanos, the number 7 Major Tom for Maravilla and Orozco. Of course, Major Tom won last time. Did you have him on top? I think you did. I know I did, and we played a little music, which we're not going to play tonight. Um,
good.
so ground control to Major Tom. By the way, for those of you that are music fans, you know what I'm talking about. We are both going to go with Major Tom again. There's really 2 races that these horses are coming out of. The question I think, Paul, you have to ask yourself, and handicappers need to ask themselves, do you like the Major Tom race better, or do you like the Run in Ute race better? Many of them are coming out of one of those races.
Yeah, I think, Howard, we have these races, I think, have been fairly formful in the regard that I know, we've talked that once they get a start or two down here, obviously then you have a much better barometer of how they're going to do. And, this could look too obvious. 3-2 last time, wins by 6 1/4, but I don't know. I guess I do. I guess that's the race I do want out of the two. I thought the 9 was kind of a wild card coming out of a totally different race. Took 14 starts to break his maiden, his 5-year-old gelding. But back to the 7, I think the number came back a little slower than the other race, so you might want to think of that. And you know, uh, Librato Baruccio, look at the numbers off the claim, so that certainly that certainly would be a plus to. As you're going to see, Major Tom is going to kind of effortlessly go by these horses on the outside. Um, Jock kind of knew he had the best horse, made sure he kept him out of trouble. Uh, and yeah, he just, and this is a similar field, it's a same
Yep,
conditions, similar field, same money. Um, sometimes these claiming horses do tend to, you know, run races in bunches. So I don't know. I mean, this is nothing clever. He's going to be better. I think he is going to be the favorite, Howard. I think he's going to take more money than these 6. But
I agree.
I picked him anyway.
I agree. Yes, the running you got to. Now, this is important to talk about, Paul. No matter what kind of figure player you are, yes, running you got a better buyer, 71, 1 by 4 3/4. That was on the 17th. The week before, Major Tom got a 68 and won by 6 1/4. However, Major Tom ran a faster time, which doesn't really matter because, of course, the track can change. But what I do want to mention is Major Tom, that was a much quicker race early. They went 22 and 2, 46 and a piece. And in the running Ute race, he got a very easy lead in 23 and 2 and 47 and a piece. 1
Big
second's
difference.
about 5 lengths, Paul. That is a major difference. So
Agree.
while running Ute might have got a better fig, I actually believe Major Tom ran the better race in my opinion, and he's also run better races even before that. You mentioned the 9 as a possible long shot. If it heats up, and it could, because No D'Oro's got some speed. There is other speed in this race. I want to just mention Big Don Smiling, the number 2, who I think is probably going to be like in the range of 10-1 morning line. Paul, the races 2 and 3 back not only fit, but would win this race. He was off a long layoff. He did not run well on February 9th at Santa Anita. He did break slow. There's not much to show. He just broke slow, was in between, had a little bit of trouble, regressed. I do want to talk about Bill McLean, the trainer. Now, 1 for 32 at this meet, but Paul, as we've talked about, a lot of these races he's running against Southern California-based horses. I'm not really going to hold the record against him. He's a 16% trainer in 2024. McLean, last 5 years, second off a long layoff, Paul, it's decent. 12% on the win end, 39% in the money. So I think Big Don's Smiling, if he can break and if it gets a little bit hot up front, which both those things are possible, look out for the number 2, Big Don's Smiling. If you know a Don and you're a fan of the name Don, this horse might take a little more money than I would like, but I'm going to mess around with Big Don's Smiling more underneath. Paul, final thoughts as we move on to leg 2.
Yeah, no, the only other horse I threw in there, and he'll be bet, is that 3 No D'Oro, the horse who Major Tom went by. You know, he stayed there. You know, that who knows what was chasing him, but you know, he did keep running after Major Tom went by. So, yeah, I think it's a fairly straightforward race. How I think one of those horses we talked about is going to win.
I think so. We have a lot of people in the chat. Jim Pilars is here. Note that he's a little bit early for Katie, so he beats him to it. Terry Frank, who big fan of the show and from St. Louis, won a second entry today, Thursday, to the National Horse Players contest, which are very championship, in Vegas coming up next week, which we're very excited about. I will be there as well. We'll talk about that in just a minute. We have Connor O'Brien is here. We got Racing Downwind is here. There you go. Baraccio with 40% off the claim with 20 tries. Oh, which horse is that again, Paul? What number?
Running Ute.
That'd be the 6. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so maybe upgrade the 6 as well. Let's go to the next race, Paul, and then we'll talk about some news in Southern California today. This is the feature of the day. It's the Pasadena Stakes, race 9. It's 1 mile, $100,000. That is restricted for the 3-year-olds. The rails are out 20 feet. It's important to note. Usually speed plays better when the rails are out. It's a very, very interesting field of 8. Paul, I thought I took a long time with this race because there's a lot going on here. My guess would be FOMO Joe, the number 4, is probably going to take a decent amount of money. I suppose the Baffer on the outside, because it's Baffer and JJ Tis Secure, will take money. I would think the Jonathan Thomas horse, number 7, will also be somewhat low in the morning line. This is not an easy morning line to make, frankly. Let me take these banners off the screen and show everyone where we're going in race 9. I'm going, look at this, Paul. How about that? We're going with the 7 horse again. I'm going 7-6-5. Paul's going 7-1-3. We're both going with the Jonathan Thomas trained, Umberto Rispoli ridden, number 7, Will Venn, who had a very nice 2-year-old campaign, Paul, and his last one I thought was very solid in the late fall at Dunmar.
Yeah, I thought that I really thought that Jimmy Durante race was good. The horse had got way further behind than usual. Came running. You know, Howard, I think the angle here in this race is whatever money the 8 takes. I think the value is betting against the 8. I was looking at the formula. Maximum Securities offer progeny at 1 for 15 in grassroots. This is the dam was a dirt winner. I just think this is going to take money off that 84 buyer, which was done on dirt, and they're running this one on turf. So I think that therein lies the value in this race, totally against the 8. I love horses that chip west. This horse was 10-1 under that circumstance last time. Um, Thomas is one of those guys that I don't have an issue with the layoff. Um, yeah, I think this horse is right in the mix. I think he's going to be the 9 in this race. No,
He's the
he's the
11
10.
in the
The 11.
Augustin green and white, sweeping
Yep.
4 or 5 wide and beating a nice horse in Castlewin. I thought this was pretty impressive. This race didn't like completely fall apart. He's right here in those white socks, and he just blew by this field, Paul.
He did, and he did have to go a little wide there. Not parking lot wide, but he did. He gets the lead at that gap there, and you open up by that looks like about 2.5 lengths, I would say, 2.25.
2.25, close.
Close. I thought that was a good effort, and you could say, well, it's off a layoff, and he ran 10th in his debut, her debut rather. But again, back to our favorite Kentucky Downs. That's the classic. Some horses like it and some horses hate it. So I'm not going to be too hard, especially coming back with a good win at Woodbine, and then showing the ability to ship, and has obviously stayed in California, training at Santa Anita all winter, and still there. So I like this horse a fair amount.
I do too. A few minor concerns. First of all, it's a filly taking on the boys, which always happens in Europe, not often here. It's not really a concern. I think it's worth mentioning. Paul, I don't love the work tab. I don't know if you looked at it carefully, but took I assume a planned break after the Breeders' Cup, after the Jimmy Durante, excuse me, and then worked on December 21st, and then had almost a month off, and then had 2 weeks off, another 2 weeks, and 2 weeks. Maybe, I'm assuming the horse is fine. I really shouldn't question Jonathan Thomas at all in this situation, Paul. Maybe the horse just doesn't want to work on a weekly basis, but I find that, I don't know, a little weird. Am I off base there?
I think when you see 4 works that are all spaced by 2 weeks, I think that's a pattern, not a coincidence.
Sure.
You know what I mean? He may be just doing brisk gallops in between, as you said. He may not be a great workhorse, although one of those works was a bullet on the training track at Santa Anita.
Yes.
But again, if it's one interruption in the list of works, Howard, 1 week, 1 week, 1 week, 3 weeks. This is 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks. So I'm not going to get started. I think Jonathan Thomas is very underrated. Speaking of Catholic boy, doesn't have as much stock now. He's kind of spread out. He's run more in California. He's done very well shipping to California. And the other thing, and I have no issue with Victor Cheminot, but out here on turf, it is an upgrade to go to Rispoli.
Yes. I believe it's Vincent, but Vincent, Victor, hey, whatever.
Oh, did I say Victor?
I believe you did, but that's okay.
It's a long week, Howard. Leave me alone. I'm gonna have a piece of my brownie. I'm gonna have a piece of my brownie now. Good.
Okay. Your Tis Secure thought. Maximum Security is also horrible first out, but this horse ran a hole in the wind. I just want to mention the dam. Tough Tis, who I liked a lot and actually gave Zenyatta a real good scare in a race way back in the day, was a very good Sin horse. This is synthetic, yes. This is a and synthetic horses can be good on turf. Very weird spot with Tis Secure. I sort of agree with you. We're going to move on. But I want to mention Rank, who are a good friend on the show. We got a lot of good friends on the show, but there are certain people part of this podcast that thought Rank was going to win the Santa Anita Derby. Ryan Anderson. That doesn't going to happen, but this is an interesting spot. I've always thought Rank has sort of like a high knee action and might take to the turf okay. He's certainly faced a lot of monsters. I'm a little bit interested in Rank. I don't like the speed in general. Precision also got a weird trip last time. So you might want to look at that. You've got Freedom's Not Free in second, who I liked last time and got a good trip, but just couldn't quite beat a very informed Scipio, who got a perfect ride from Pratt. You're also going to look at Friendly Confines. And of course, as a fan of the Chicago Cubs, you got to love Friendly Confines, the nickname for our beloved Wrigley Field. Really fun race, Ball, very interesting. It sort of feels like you want to try to beat the favorite. I hope Will Then is not too low a price, Ball.
Yeah, and Howard, I just checked. Rank is loaded with turf pedigree on the damn side. By
Yeah.
the way, so
Yes.
that I agree. It's an interesting placement. On the one hand, they've tried 8 times on dirt now and hasn't worked out yet, but to make the turf debut and still a maiden in a stakes. Doug O'Neill is not on the Hall of Fame ballot because he's stupid. So,
No doubt. Well, he's just as fast as all these if he runs a decent number, but it's on turf. We'll see.
Well, look at, and if you want to look at the 2-year-old form, getaway car, gaming, journalism, Rodriguez. No wonder the poor horse can't break his maiden. Keeps putting him at monsters. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna put a severe upgrade on this horse. This horse could get lost a little bit, Uncle.
Might. He is the 6, by the way. I think you said he's the 6. I think you said the 4. I could be mistaken, but
now you're gonna pick on the. Oh, I'm gonna have another piece of brownie while you make fun of me. Go ahead. You just talk about all my mistakes.
Not making fun, Paul. Just don't want to confuse our wonderful viewers and listeners out there. And we have a whole bunch watching, by the way, and listening on the Santa Anita X handle, and as well as the Santa Anita YouTube channel. So welcome to all of our wonderful friends out on the West Coast. Speaking of West Coast, Paul, very quickly, I'll let you finish your brownie. Big news today, Trevor Denman announces retirement. Not too much of a surprise, I don't think, although we weren't sure exactly when. He'd been missing some certain weeks and whatnot over the last year or two. He's in my top 2 or 3 all time. It's not even close.
Definitely 5, maybe 3. I agree.
Yeah, I don't even want to get into that debate. Not only is he a great track announcer, terrific guy, iconic. We could go on and on. We have two other races to cover. But my personal favorite is They Would Need to Sprout Wings. That's my favorite one.
That's mine.
And I just love how the very subtle start of the race, and away they go. Just very subtle. I remember the first time I heard him, Paul, I was like, what's this strange voice? It was a little bit, it was weird. I was trying to figure out the accent. I'll tell you what, Trevor Denman, tip my cap, and also tip my cap to the new race announcer, now caller at Del Mar, Mr. Larry Colmus, friend of the show, friend of mine as well. I'm very happy and proud to have him as the new announcer at Del Mar. But any quick thoughts on Trevor Denman and Paul, and we'll get on to the next race.
No, I agree with everything you said. Just a first-class guy. I had one very, very minor bone to pick with him over the years. He did not call the fractions. I used to argue with my good friend Doc Moorer about this because Doc loves him. I love him too, but I do think that's such a pivotal part of the race. And I get it. Most people are watching it, but you have people like me who are in the car a lot and listening, and I like to. Anyway, but forget about that. Just a first-class caller, just a first-class guy. Definitely top 5, maybe top 3. Some of his Zenyatta calls were just go watch that Breeders' Cup Classic that Zenyatta won as one of the top 10 race calls of all time. And as far as Larry, I would say Larry rebounded pretty well from not being able to come to an agreement with Naira to stay on as their top track announcer.
Yeah, I hear you.
He's done okay.
I think so. Jared 918. What's up, Jared? New person in our live chat. Thanks for all the memories, Trevor. My favorite Denmanism is, quote, the more they asked, the more he or she gave. Yes, that is also.
Love it.
He just had many. I mean, he's just so damn smooth. I mean, man. And he almost it's hard for me to believe this. I almost never heard him make a mistake. I mean, it's crazy.
He's very good.
And if you watch enough races, you can pick up little things that he was just top class all the way. Happy retirement, Mr. Trevor Denman. Let's go on to the third leg of the pick 4 on Sunday. We'll talk about these last 2 legs a little more quickly. Race 10 is an optional allowance 32 claimer. This is again for Northern California horse. But Paul, these are some of the better ones that are down in Southern California right now. It's a field of 7. They are all Calbreds except the number 6. And I want to make sure I pronounce this right because I wrote it down. Harson is, I believe, how the number 6 is pronounced. Let's see where we're going here in race 10. I'm going 6-3-1. We're a little different now. Paul's going 2-1-6. Talk about creative. The number 2 for Puentes and Arantes, Paul.
Yeah, I had some interesting stats, Howard. And
it.
again, a lot of these folks are moving down. They're all moving down from the north, but the trainers in this race at this meet are a combined 5 for 123 for 4%. The jocks are a combined 35 for 397 for 9%. So someone's going to win it. But yeah, again, I don't have a strong opinion. I thought I did kind of do some jockey percentages on this play, on these two plays, but I think the fact that this horse went gate to wire last time, I think that option could be there again in this race. Howard, obviously, was coming off the 1,000-yard races at. Yeah, you can pull up the time for him. Yeah, he's right there on the pace with the 3 and 5. His run respectably fast early, not blazing, but not terrible. So, yeah, I don't. This to me is a. I took a long look at your pick. I picked him third. So I will play the race in the horizontal so that the 1 or 2 probably has to win, other than a real backup ticket with the 6.
Paul, that's one of my stronger opinions of the sequence, and I'm pretty sure I have the favorite, so I'm not being overly creative. I think Harson lays over this field. I think he's going to win relatively easily and it's a big if he can handle the quick turnaround. I'm not sure I love the quick 2-week turnaround, but this horse seems to run relatively often. And I'm going to trust that the trainer knows what he's doing here. He is in for the 32. I mean, I guess there are some things to worry about, but boy, the numbers, just by the numbers, I think he not only fits, but he's the best. This trainer is also very good, by the way, who I'm not overly familiar with, Samuel Calvario. Again, 18% trainer, though, Paul. You can't be worried about the over 25 at this meet because they don't run a lot of these restricted races. And obviously, he's running horses, against tougher companies. So I'm just not going to take the trainer stats in Southern California to heart with the Northern California-based trainers in general. His numbers fit. He ran good against Wound Up last time. Granted, it was on turf. I think he's just going to sit a good trip and win. This Grubauer was a complete monster that he faced 2 back. Grubauer has been destroying these types. If you look at what Grubauer has done, I mean, this horse came down from Northern California and won by 3, won by 5 with an 80 and 91 buyer. Grubauer is not in this race. I just like Harson quite a bit. Again, not overly creative. He's probably the favorite. I would mess around a little bit with the 3 as well. Idaho 1. So here's my thought really quick, Paul. This is like year 2. If a horse gets loose on the lead, maybe it's this one, turf to dirt, Franco. I think the 3, well, according to the time form, the 3 is faster earlier than the 2 and perhaps more classy with 50 claimers and N1Xs in his form. So if a horse gets loose, maybe it's Idaho once, not doing it in Boise, but doing it in Arcadia, California for Idaho once. Interesting race, Paul. We'll see what happens. Any final thoughts? And we'll go to last race.
Yeah, no, like I said, I took a long look at your 6. I'm a big Johnny Tabota fan. He claimed this horse. The horses that Johnny owns, he has a son with autism. They all have autism in the name. But this one, of course, he claimed. But yeah, you could be right. One thing that people should be aware of, this horse 3 back ran second to Major Tom. So let's see how Major Tom runs against much cheaper company 2 races prior to this. If for any reason Major Tom doesn't run well, I'm afraid I would have to downgrade this one.
That's fair. They are, yeah, because of the class level too. So I would agree with you. That is interesting. Got a lot of people in the comments just want to see who we've got here. Tom Espinoza, he knows these Northern California guys. For For those people who don't know Tom, and most people listening and watching do not, Tom lives in the San Francisco area. Calvario, solid trainer at GG for years. He would know. That's why, see, Paul, this is why we have great people to give us
Yes,
this type
we have
of
them everywhere.
information. We sure do. Let's go to the last race. And just like last week, this is a tough last race. Claimers on the turf, 32 down to 28. Again, the rail is out 20 feet. That might help the speed. $40,000. Some salty veterans. You got what? 2 9-year-olds, an 8-year-old, a 7-year-old, etc. They're all in for the claim except number 3, McKinnon, which is interesting. Hard to say where the favoritism will go, so we'll just go right to our picks, Paul, and move on, and then give our best bets and wrap up the show. I am going 4-7-5, and Paul is going 9-6-10.
So there
Paul,
you go.
I'm pretty good at math, as most people know. I'm a math teacher. There are 10 horses in this race. We have 6 different numbers. Tough race, I would say. Talk about the 9 Ottoman Prince for D'Amato.
Yeah, I think it is a reflection of the race, and I went with the youngster, the 5-year-old Howard. I'm most intrigued this race, Howard, to see how it's run. I believe the time form has it fast. Am I right about that, Howard?
Yes, it does. There's really only 2 speed horses, but they both are pretty quick and want to be forward.
Yeah.
Here it is.
Yeah. So I got a feeling, I'm fairly confident it is going to be one from behind. You have the 4 who's up a little closer. I have this Ottoman Prince. So that's actually really where I think he's going to be, kind of second tier. But certainly, I think based on how I believe the pace is going to go, I think can close. I mean, this horse is, what you see is what you get, right? There's six races in the U.S. on the page, all buyers between 81 and 86. So, if you can win this race with like an 85, this horse is going to win. If someone pops up to a 90, he's not. But, I do think our top 3 is an indication of how tough the race is. And I certainly, with my good friend Raylu flying across the country for one mount, which I find very interesting, by the way, unless he's just going to the beach to celebrate his Gotham win, which could be. He's in the Derby, by the way. How great was, I digress, but to have Raylu and Junior qualify for the Derby within a half hour of each other last Saturday, I really, really enjoyed that. Anyway,
Flood zone.
We talked about Jonathan Thomas just last race, or 2 races ago, I guess, whenever it was. So yeah, I want to use this horse, but yeah, if you're playing a sequence, Howard, and I usually do play the pick 4 just because people have to listen to me talk about it every Thursday night, so I feel kind of compelled to throw some money at it. I want to be, if I'm alive, I want to be spread out as much as I can in this race.
There are a lot of horses that have similar form and similar numbers, and not only, Paul, are you going to play the pick 4 as well as I, maybe we're going to play this bet.
It's the first coast-to-coast pick 5.
An attractive pick 5 sequence featuring Gulfstream Park.
And Santa Anita Park. Player-friendly 15% takeout.
A $1 minimum. Big pool.
Huge payout. First coast-to-coast pick 5. Every Saturday and Sunday.
Coast pick 5, a tough bet, but a lot of fun. It's $1. Get some friends together, play a big ticket. It will pay, I guarantee it. I'm not a huge fan of the February 9th race in general that Ottoman Prince is coming out of, Paul. And that's one of the reasons I was veering away from that race. It just visually didn't seem very impressive to me. I fully realize Jimmy Blue Jeans is a speed horse and it says a fast pace. I'm hoping Frey is going to be smart enough not to get into a crazy speed duel. I think he can rate if he needs to off of the number 8 horse, who I'm sure is going, so I'm told, who to me is not nearly as classy. So I say just let the 8 go if the 8 outbreaks you and is intent on lead, and just sit right off. And I think Jimmy Blue Jeans is sharp enough to win this race. I mean, last time it was a 1.8 miles and it was a stake, much tougher spot. They're putting him in a much more realistic spot. And if he doesn't win, I wanted to go with a closer, and I had a few to choose from. But lottery pick is sort of a fresh face. Paul has not run since late December, has numbers that fit. I like Urton. I really like Fresu. So I'm sort of going with a closer, Paul, that hasn't been running as much lately. I think he probably needed the break. He's only 6-year-old. That's the 7 lottery pick, who should be an okay price. I've got a lot of horses in this race. I just think it's a very tough race. I think you should spread as much as possible, Paul, in your pick threes, doubles, whatever you're going to do.
Yeah, I think Howard lottery pick is interesting. I'm glad you talked about lottery pick, because if we have a meltdown, that's a horse I think you're going to want to use. May not get all the way there, but I talked about the consistency of the buyers on the 9. Well, the 7's the same thing, except consistently higher. More in the mid to upper 80s, and throws a 90 in there if you go all the way back to 23. But yeah, I won't be shocked if this melts down. It just seems like odd things happening in the last race. Certainly at Gulfstream last Saturday, that was truly unfortunate, as I was alive in the pick everything and did not have Pletch's 16 to 1 shot. But who cares about that? I have a half a brownie left. Anyway, yeah, there's my best bet. I'm going to start with that 7 horse that you and I both liked. That was in the Pasadena. That was Will Then. I think you and I both picked. Yeah, you and I both picked it. And then I did say, I think one of those 2 will win the next leg, although Howard brought up some very cogent points about the 6. And then 3 deep on paper in the last race, although I think I am going to kind of add the 7 based on the conversation.
Wow, Paul, you're taking my advice. That is so kind of you.
Always, Uncle.
I'm sure I'll be reciprocating in some of these races, because you brought up some cogent arguments as well. My best bets, I'm going to go to race 10. I like Harson. If he's ready off the 2-week layoff, I just think he's the best horse by far. It's not my most creative pick, but I'm going to go number 6 in race 10, Harson. I'm going to play double into lottery pick and Jimmy, the number 4. I think we can get value in this $5 double, Paul. So I'm going to press up and try to really smash it. I'll do a $10 double, twice the base bet, 6 with 4-7. I'm sure I can make a nice profit there, because that last race is completely wide open. Although I do think Harson will be around 9 to 5-ish. But I think the value I will get, Paul, will be on the back end of that double.
Yeah, I agree.
One other announcement, very important. This Monday night, and that is March 10th, I believe. Yes, March 10th. We do have shows occasionally Monday night called Horsin' Around. They are recap shows that we have usually once or twice a month. If you're familiar with the podcast, you know that. If you're relatively new to our podcast, you would not know that. This Monday night's Horsin' Around episode will be the preview for the NHC, the National Horse Players Championship. It is in Vegas. It's based, if you're not familiar, it's basically like the World Series of Poker for horse players. I will be there. I have 2 entries. I'm double qualified. And on Monday night, we're going to preview, talk about contest strategy. Even if you're not going to the NHC, it's definitely worth the conversation. We're going to have 2 former champions of the NHC with us, Justin Mustari, and last year's champion, Mike Gillum, plus many other people probably as well. So it's a lot of fun. If you want to know more about contests, you should check out our special Monday night show coming up, Horsin' Around, 8 p.m. Eastern, again, Monday night. Paul, final thoughts? Bring up the banner for Santa Anita, or anything else in your world you'd like to mention?
No, I think I touched on it as part of my rant on the last show. I'm not going to get into the rant again, but just a great time of year. The calendar, we're into March. We're almost in mid-March. We're hoping, I'm sure you are too in the Midwest, Howard. I'm certainly hoping we're done with the bad weather. I started, already have Keeneland plans, but made some additional Keeneland plans today. The Big Bird leaves for Keeneland in, what's today, the 6th? 34 days. We'll be airborne, headed to Keeneland on March 9th for Grade 1 Gamble weekend.
April 9th. Sorry.
April 9th, yeah. I wish it were March 9th. But then there'll be no racing.
Sure.
Yeah, looking forward to get down there. Well, I think I've managed to set up the schedule so that I'll be at the track all 5 racing days of the week that they're
Whoa.
running.
Wow.
This isn't my first rodeo, Howard.
Sounds like
And
fun to
then
me.
we get the Derby after that, and we get the Belmont at Saratoga, and we're coming right into the best, the beginning of the best time of year. You people who live in California can't relate, but those of us who live in lousy weather places like Howard and me, the good weather can't come soon enough. Especially me. I'm old and cranky. I don't want snow. I don't want cold. I don't want any of that crap. It was 58 here today. People are walking around in their underwear. They're so happy.
Whoa. All right. Well, I'm not sure I want to see that, but we got a little snow yesterday, but it's going to be up to like 60 and like low 60s early next week. So
Good.
Spring is a coming. You know what's also coming, Paul? A great late pick for us Sunday
Yes,
at Santa Anita.
absolutely.
Please make sure you check that out. Support Santa Anita First Racing and our show, Great Race Plays. We really appreciate everyone watching and listening. And as we always say to end our show, crush your bets at the Great Race Place this Sunday for the late pick 4. Take care, everyone. Have a great night. Bye-bye.
If you have not followed his Triple H horse racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.